interview, but agreed to call on us if we attended a news conference.
Madam Leader, I wanted to ask you why you and your husband, back in March of 2008, accepted and participated in a very large IPO deal from Visa. At a time there was major legislation affecting the credit card companies making its way through the House. And did you consider that to be a conflict of interest?
I don't know what your point is of your question. Is there some point that you want to make with that?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think it's all right for a speaker to accept a very preferential and favorable stock deal?
Well, we didn't.
You participated in the IPO.
Well, I have many
and at the time you were
investments, but
Speaker of the House. You don't think it was a conflict of interest or had the appearance of a conflict of interest?
It only has the appearance if you decide that you're going to have elaborate on a false premise. But it's not true.
Members of Congress have access to sensitive, non-public information on economic and legislative matters. This access can easily lead to conflicts of interest, especially when it comes to stock trading. Recently, the spotlight has been on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who denies any wrongdoings, but her husband's trades have raised questions. And she's not alone. Over the years, numerous lawmakers have faced allegations of insider trading.
We recommend that you require members of Congress to divest conflicting assets with the option to put any remaining assets in a blind trust that is subject to new public disclosures.
The misnomer with respect to qualified blind trust is that it only works if it's truly blind.
It is better to focus on increasing transparency through disclosure.
Disclosure hasn't worked. If anything, disclosure of financial transactions puts it glaringly obvious to the public that the conflicts of interest are there.
One recent example is the sale of Visa stock by Paul Pelosi, her husband. On July 1st, 2024, just a few months before the Department of Justice filed an antitrust lawsuit against Visa, Paul Pelosi sold 2,000 shares valued at over $500,000. When the DOJ financially filed the suit in late September, the timing of the sale raised a lot of red flags. Why does this matter? If everyday citizens traded stock based on non-public information, they would face serious consequences, maybe even prison. But Congress members seem to play by a different set of rules.
Visa knows it is a, quote, must-carry network for banks and merchants alike. That means all merchants and banks must contract with Visa because certain purchases using a Visa debit card can only be completed through its network. Visa uses that leverage to get banks and merchants to agree to what are known as, quote, volume requirements.
And this isn't the first time the Pelosi family's trading activities have come under fire. In 2021, Nancy Pelosi was asked whether lawmakers should be banned from trading stocks altogether. At the time, she rejected the idea, insisting that we live in a free market. But with multiple allegations of her husband's timely trades, like buying shares in companies just before Congress votes on issues directly affecting those businesses, public trust is eroding.
Because this is a free market and people, we're a free market economy, they should be able to participate in that. We have a responsibility to report in the stock.
The question is whether or not the lawmaker themselves has prior knowledge of this or is actually trading these stocks themselves. They're still ultimately benefiting from a very well-timed stock purchase.
To be clear, Nancy Pelosi has consistently denied having any involvement in her husband's stock trades. Her defense, she claims that her husband makes his or her investment decisions based on public information. But the critics argue that even without direct involvement, optics are damaging. When a high-profile lawmaker's spouse seems to profit from trades that align with these upcoming government actions, people can't help but wonder if there's more going on.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you received from you?
No, absolutely not. Okay.
If you were a senator, Steve, and I gave you $10,000 cash, one or both of us is probably going to go to jail. But if I'm a corporate executive and you're a senator and I give you IPO shares in stock, and over the course of one day, that stock nets you $100,000, that's completely legal.
And former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her husband have participated in at least 8 IPOs.
Republicans and even some Democrats have called for reforms. For example, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, has openly criticized Pelosi and proposed banning lawmakers and their spouses from trading individual stocks altogether. Some argued that a ban is necessary to restore trust in government and prevent conflicts, of course, interest. One notable legislative effort is the Stock Act, passed in 2012, which aimed to prevent insider trading by lawmakers. However, many say the act lacks teeth, as there are loopholes and weak enforcement mechanisms.
That's the Stock Act. The Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act is designed to combat insider trading. The bill prohibits the use of non-public information for private profit, including insider trading by members of Congress and other government employees.
But she cannot change the laws of this Congress. She cannot unilaterally decide we're in an impeachment inquiry.
To put this into context, insider trading allegations are not new in Congress. In fact, many lawmakers from both parties have faced scrutiny for stock trades that seem suspiciously well-timed. The issue raises broader ethical questions about how closely financial interests are tied to those making these policy decisions.
And the telephone company is a grateful participant.
In the decades after World War II, the stock market helped create the heyday of shared American prosperity.
A new era begins. Make the system more democratic. Increase the flow of capital for the financing of business.
The corporation really was supposed to be a vehicle for providing investment opportunities, not just to the very, very wealthy, but to average Americans. It's generating superior returns for investors.
Over and over and over, you went to the stock market and you bragged about it. You made money personally off it. When you were asked about it, you did not tell the truth and you tried to cover it up. Wells Fargo is not going to change with you in charge.
Now, here's where the issue stings the most for everyday American citizen. If you and I were caught making stock trades with insider information, we would likely face harsh investigations, as I mentioned, and maybe even jail time. But when it comes to these members of Congress, the repercussions are minimal. This disparity highlights the power and the privilege that lawmakers hold. And as public servants, shouldn't they be held to the same, if not higher, standards than the citizens they represent? But as it stands, these individuals seem insulated from the consequences that ordinary people would face.
The industry and the lobbyists for the industry said if you run that ad, we're going to pull the however $5-10 million that we had set aside to run ads supporting your candidacy. They pulled the ad.
The question is then, what can be done? Some lawmakers and activists are pushing for these stricter reforms to limit the stock trading by Congress members and their families. But until a real change happens, these allegations of insider trading will continue to erode public trust in our institutions. Ultimately, this controversy exposes a broader issue. When our elected officials benefit financially from the very laws they help shape, it's hard for the public to believe that the system is fair or just.
The most popular way, if you can say popular, is to put all these investments into blind trusts that would be managed by an outside person. So the member of Congress, and this would probably apply to staffers as well, would never know what trades are happening. Another way you could approach this is to ban the trading of individual company stocks, but allow members of Congress to trade ETFs and mutual funds. So they'd be able to basically take part in market action, make bets on what's going to go up and what's going to go down, but it would not be company by company. So I don't think that's a perfect solution, but I don't think there is any perfect solution. And if you sort of take away the ability to make bets on individual companies, that would eliminate a lot of the concern here. And the concern is that members of Congress know things about regulatory matters or policy changes that might affect individual companies and let them turn a profit on that insider information. And we have seen some examples of that. So if you limit it to funds, at least you're taking away the ability to play on what you know about any given company.
Insider trading by members of Congress isn't just about making money. It's about fairness, trust, and responsibility. Our lawmakers have to serve the public and not their wallets. And until we see real change, stories like the Pelosi stock trades will keep surfacing, casting doubt on the integrity of our government. And one last thought, if you or I tried something like this, we'd be under serious investigation. But when it's a Congress member, they're shielded by the very institutions they serve. Let me know what you think. Do we need stricter rules for lawmakers? Drop a comment below. And always be good to yourselves. Out.